Okay, the first one, what to optimize and what exists versus what can be. Now, here is a very, very important point, right? And this relates to optimization of any kind, right? Optimization exercises, when you're asked to do or you want to do, you need to understand what can create a multiplier effect. And when you say multiplier effect, it has to be generally something small, right? Like for example, you're asking a DOB, date of birth field, right? And you are asking the person to, in Apple earlier they had, abhi to theek hai, keypad based ho gaya. You were asking to, move the calendar like that, right? Move it or select it on the calendar. Now, you might think this is such a small change. If you just enhance it in a way that it is easier for the user to put that number in, you might think it's a very small change. But remember that change, and I mentioned it in the last challenge about Aether, that small change is going to affect every single user that comes on board, right? And that has a multiplier effect. How does it have a multiplier effect? If you change that, then your funnel kind of gets optimized every single day. You've got to think that way, right? Okay, how many people came to the first screen? And obviously we don't have the luxury of data right now, but if you did, I'm sure you would come to know the exact pain point where you should optimize. That doesn't mean कि अच्छा ठीक है जहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा drop है वहीं optimize करेंगे, but that gives you an indicator where you're losing the user, right? Where you could do, put in hints, put in nudges, do something that can really push the flow. I can bank on this, that this really, really improves retention of the app. Now, I don't know if for Grow if that is an issue. When I say retention, what that means is the user has downloaded the app and he stays or uses the app for 7, that the windows differ, 7, 15 and 1 month. These are very important windows to keep track of users, and they determine your DAOs, MAOs, and all of the metrics that get tracked as management, senior management has a look. So if you are improving your onboarding, without a doubt, your overall app retention improves, right? Why? Because all the new users that come in are going to go through that flow. So a date of birth change might seem like, the field, optimizing that one small field might seem like a very small thing for you, but eventually it makes a massive difference in retention, and retention has a direct impact on revenue. This is a given. There is no questioning on doubting ki ye hoga ya nahi, 100% hoga. So I remember, I don't remember the exact number, but we had a retention of, I think, 7% when we were doing campaigns. And it really does depend what your marketing team is doing. You don't have that control. But we were able to shoot it from 7 to about 15%. And that was just basis improvements of optimization for onboarding. Just ensure ki OTP gets delivered in a particular format, ensure that the full name, last name. So we had like first name, middle name, last name, we converted into full name, just one field. And then there is obviously a limit to how much you should do it, because like as Grow has done and some of you have suggested, so many steps which are not steps but one input field each might become irritating. So you have to do a balance. Data always helps, but always and always try to improve first what exists and then what can be. Now, what is this what can be? So if you saw Harshit, what he has suggested, right? So what he suggested is Aadhaar linking, and check whether it's already linked. If it's already linked, then do these things. This is a what can be thing, right? This does not exist, or there is regulation that prevents it, or it's a gray area. It depends on outside of the product, right? It's not something that you control. But my suggestion is that when you're working and if you have a roadmap and you are in charge of that app or product, or you're looking after that piece, do both. Focus, say 80% or 70% of your attention on what exists and what can be improved. And then later on these exploratory kind of things, look, I already mentioned this, look beyond competition. So your competition is like, the local minima. You can only do as good as them. So if you keep looking, so a telecom operator looks at other telecom operators, right? A trading app looks at other trading apps. UPI payment apps look at UPI payment. You will not go beyond what is possible, right? All of these have onboarding flows. All of these have, gamification angles to it. All of these have payment flows. हर एक में ये flows है. So जब तुम flows evaluate करते हो, I mean, say, obviously you have to look at a competitor, but that is hygiene. Look one step beyond, or two step or two industries outside of that scope. That will give you ideas that how can you adapt that to your current flows. And that is immense, because you start thinking कि अच्छा ठीक है ये लोग ऐसे कर सकते हैं, so can we also do something of that nature? That cannot happen if you just look at competitors. It's a good practice to look at competition, but you should always, if you're doing optimization, look for something outside of your industry.